Hi, my name is Ben Humphreys from Kentucky State Planning Law Center, and we're providing this little video because you have called the office and have a family member that is going in the nursing home or is in the nursing home, and you have what we call a crisis case. And so anytime we have a crisis case, we try to get you in as quickly as we can. And at that meeting, we're going to go over a lot of stuff. And so I wanted to give you a little video that kind of gave you an idea of a few major points so that you'll be ready for our meeting. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through a slideshow here. Okay. All right, so anytime a person is going into a nursing home or even assisted living, that's a crisis case. That's obviously a very traumatic time to the family. A lot of things that are changing, a lot of things are up in the air. And so this is an important time for us to stop and to think and to have a good plan in place for mom or dad or for a loved one. So anytime a person goes into a nursing home care, people are always kind of curious, how do we pay for that nursing home care? Obviously, you can always use a person's money. They call that private paying, so pay your own way or private pay. You can try to qualify for Medicare. So in order for Medicare to pay for nursing home care, you have to have been in a hospital in an inpatient situation for 3 nights, 3 consecutive nights and days. And then from the hospital, they place you in a nursing home and for rehab. And you can get up to 100 days of Medicare coverage. Now, Medicare doesn't pay all of it. They will pay for most of it. But then at some point they split the bill with your insurance company. But for the most part, when you're on Medicare, for most people, that is at no cost to you, the individual. There may be some minor costs for most of us, but not a lot. So most people, if you're smart, you try to go from a hospital stay of 3 nights, 3 consecutive nights to the nursing home for rehab so that you can get your loved one on Medicare. That buys us about 100 days of time to think and to plan. So that's obviously the best option as far as getting payment for nursing home care. After that, after the 100 days ends, then if you are still in a nursing home and wanting government to pay, then you will apply for Medicaid. And so if you are to go into a nursing home and don't go from a hospital, then you can immediately apply for Medicaid. If you're already in the nursing home and you're on Medicare, then you wait to apply for Medicaid until the Medicare ends. So who's paying for the first 100 days of the nursing home bill kind of depends on, did you come from the hospital? Are you on Medicare? And if not, then we need to apply for Medicaid immediately. Now, there are some VA benefits available to certain people, to veterans, and those VA benefits could be sufficient to pay for all of a nursing home bill. And so that's something that we always need to look at to see if you qualify for those benefits. A lot of times those may be means-based, which means that just like Medicaid, you have to qualify, your assets and income have to be certain levels. And so what we always tell people is every case is different. Don't go by what your neighbor did or did not do. Just understand that every single case is different, and we're going to have to look at your case specifically in order to tell you what your options are. But anyway, we go from private pay to Medicare, Medicaid, VA benefits. Those are the different ways that nursing home bills can get paid. Our job here at the law office is to try to help you get Medicaid or VA benefits to pay for your nursing home care. And so that's the kind of what we see as our job in trying to help the client. When do you apply? Again, we kind of went over this a little bit. So you never apply for Medicaid until you're actually in the nursing home. So you cannot apply for Medicaid if you're not in a nursing home setting. Now there are some home-based Medicaid benefits available to some people. So, but as a general rule, if you're wanting the Medicaid to pay for a nursing home bill, you actually have to be in the nursing home for them to pay. Now, again, we have to back up and say, was the client on Medicare? And if so, they've got 100 days. generally. And then when Medicare ends, that's when you apply. If there's no Medicare, then you apply when the client or patient goes in the nursing home. Okay, so a lot of people come in and say, I need to go ahead and apply for Medicaid. Mom or dad's heading to the nursing home, and just understand that we can get ready, but we cannot really apply until they're actually in a nursing home bed. All right. So who handles the Medicaid application? So obviously you could always handle that yourself. We don't recommend it. It's a very difficult and complex case. And the nursing home generally has services available. We generally do not recommend that. They provide great services. However, we believe that a qualified attorney working on your behalf will do a much better job of protecting your assets, looking out for any exceptions that might be available to protect those assets for you and your family. And so I know the nursing home will say they're going to do it for free, but just understand that we believe that having a qualified attorney working on your behalf will allow you to save more money than you could using the nursing home staff. So it will more than pay for itself by having a qualified attorney working on your behalf. Some Medicaid myths out there is a lot of people are going to tell you that there's no way to save the house, and that's simply not true. There are ways to save the family home. There's exceptions to the rules and things like that, and so we will look at those exceptions when you come in. So just understand it's not always true that you have to give up your house. Generally, if you have a spouse living in the house, you can always save the house. Also, if you have a disabled child, then that disabled child could receive the home, whether out directly or in a special needs trust. So there's different ways to save the property. A lot of people also will tell you that you have to get all your planning done 5 years in advance, and that's simply not true. If you're married, there's quite a few exceptions and quite a few exemptions that we can take advantage of in helping you protect your assets. And so, every case is different. And so if you're married, there's tons of exemptions for us to use to try to protect those assets. And even if you're single, there are exemptions that we can use to try to save assets. So we always tell people, if you're married, we generally can save most of your assets. We believe if you use us, that's not a guarantee, of course, but that's what we try to do, is try to save most of your assets. But if you're single, then we try to save at least half. Okay. And so that's kind of the way we look at those things. The other thing that people look at is they say, you may have heard out there that the nursing home only looks at the assets of the spouse in the nursing home when they're looking at taking those assets to pay the bills. And so that's not true. If you're married, they're going to look at both spouses' assets and both spouses' debts and income. So they look at the whole family picture, even if there's a prenuptial agreement, even if there's a postnuptial agreement. Medicaid and the nursing home are allowed by law to look at both of the couple's assets. Some people think out there that you can protect your assets by making them jointly owned with the kids. That's not true. That used to be true, I think, but it's not true anymore. And so as a general rule, you cannot just put your kids' names on the assets and protect those. So just don't do that. That's not going to really do anything for you. Next thing, people think that you could just give away all your assets to try to hide them. A lot of people hear about giving away $15,000 per year, something like that. That's simply not true. In our planning, we're not giving those assets away. We're either taking advantage of exemptions in the law for for retitling assets to like a spouse at home, or putting those assets into a trust or something like that. We're not giving those assets to anybody because we don't want to lose control of the assets as a general rule. And then finally, people out there say there's no way to save your assets. And we're here to tell you that's just not true. We can help you save your money by doing what we call Medicaid crisis planning. Okay. So what do you need to bring in if you're coming in for crisis planning? You obviously need to bring in the photo ID of the person that's in the nursing home. If they're married, we'll need both people's IDs. We'll need the Medicare and insurance cards of everybody. Every person that's getting Social Security gets an award letter every year saying how much their Social Security is. It generally comes at the end of the year for the next year. So bring that in. Likewise, for any pensions, anybody getting a pension, you'll need to get that award letter for that year. It has to be the year that we're dealing with. Get the most recent bank statements. Just bring in the most recent ones that you have. That'll get us started. Bring in any financial statements, life insurance information. Bring in the most current ones that you have. That'll help us get started. Copies of deeds, copies of car titles, statements regarding any debts, credit card bills, or things like that, and proof of any ongoing bills for utilities. So that completes our slideshow, and I just wanted to go over those things to let people know just a little bit of information. These are common questions that we deal with at our first meeting. We'll probably have to go over the same information when you come in, but it kind of gives you a little bit of information, and it shows you what we need at our first meeting. And the reason we need that information is so that we can know exactly how much we can save you and your family, how much of the assets that we can save. I hope that helps, and we look forward to working with you on your case and helping you and your family through this difficult time. Thank you.